For me, there was no light bulb moment or moment where I suddenly woke up and thought, I'm going to be a missionary in West Africa. It was certainly God just chipping away at my heart, growing my understanding of Him and His character. There are a few key factors. When I was younger, I played a lot of volleyball. I actually was part of our national program for about 7 years and travelled to over 30 countries. So that had a big influence on me. I saw many other parts of the world and just saw how blessed we are back in Australia in terms of material and spiritual resources. So that was a beginning. But also just being involved in mission-minded churches and attending mission conferences. I think God just kept on opening up my eyes to the variety of different people that He can use overseas. I had studied as an engineer and was working in the water industry. So I think it was just continuing to pray whether God could use those skills, and eventually just talking to mission agencies, and eventually I approached SIM, and that felt like a really good fit for me, and really saying to them, I love my work as an engineer, but I'm willing to do that anywhere. Could you use me? Knowing the gospel needs throughout the world. And after having a chat with SIM, and they spoke to many of their different fields, eventually a country in West Africa was very quick to reply. I left in 2011 to start work in West Africa. I think when I first spoke to SIM, I really did feel like a good fit. I was quite taken by their mission, that SIM was convinced that no one should live and die without hearing God's good news. And knowing that was my heart as well, and the fact that they could use my skills in different contexts, just really continued, encouraged me to continue that conversation. And certainly in West Africa where I work, SIM's involved in sort of two aspects of that ministry. Is encouraging the local church to see that as their mission as well, reaching out to people around them, but also wanting to see that church grow and strengthen. But then also reaching out into different people groups in the region that really are living and dying without knowing Jesus, and we want to give them the opportunity to know Jesus, and just to be able to support others that are on the front line doing that work as well. SIM has been in a part of West Africa for about 60 years, and they've been involved in many different ministries that are really helping to equip the local church. A huge one for us is involved in literacy and translation work. There's many different languages in the area where I live. We have a real heart to want to see the scriptures in people's heart languages. We believe that's really how God speaks to us through His Word. So over many years we've been involved in using either missionary or local translators translating God's Word. And so that's been a big part. Another part is just also ministering to human need through medical work as well, and just giving the church an opening there to be caring for others around them, and opening then into gospel conversations. And another part is just trying to, as I say, build the church up, and they've got big training needs in terms of discipleship, as well as just needing more pastors and their pastors to grow in their knowledge and love of the scriptures. So we've been involved in helping to support Bible schools, running different types of conferences, and sometimes even helping to support local Christian teachers that are involved in schools, and equipping them so that they can look at ways of bringing the gospel into their own classrooms as well. As I look back over my journey into missions, I think the training began really being involved in the local church and in mission-minded churches. A big part of my journey was just seeing others take God's command to go seriously, and think about different training they would need or preparing to go, and that to me made the option of going, sort of normalised it to a certain extent. So it was one option that I was considering. And certainly the fact I'd worked as an engineer in Australia, that was building up those skills, which I then build on and use. I also took a year out to head to Bible college in Australia, and that was great, a great training ground, not only living in community as part of that college, but just learning more about God's Word and God's character. And even though I'm not involved in a direct teaching ministry, was just such a great foundation for being involved in missionary work. And another part of preparation was definitely learning language. So where I live is a French-speaking country, and so I left Australia in 2011 and spent a year in France learning French. I'd done a little bit at school, but that was far from my finest hour, so I was really starting afresh as an adult, learning French. And I mean, that's been a process, but certainly it was great to be able to devote that first year to language, and going from there. Encouragement I'd love to give to people that are considering mission is just to just keep taking baby steps. Keep praying about the possibility of whether God could use your skills or work that you do elsewhere, but also just talk to different mission agencies. That was a big part for me, just looking at where different agencies work and the work that they're doing. Being involved in mission conferences really gave me a good opening and a good idea as to the various roles. And I work alongside motor mechanics, Bible teachers, nurses, a whole range of different people that God is using in our part of the world. So just being more informed, receiving prayer letters, praying for people, and just pray that God will open up the right door and opportunity for you. It is about God's character that encourages me to keep going. Probably a number of ways I could comment on that, but I think a big thing for me is just knowing this life is so temporary. That we have heaven and eternity with Jesus to look forward to, and that just keeping that perspective really encourages me to keep going. I've been given skills that I could be using in a different capacity, either here in Australia or elsewhere, but I think, just pressing on, knowing that it's such a small moment in time compared to the glory that we'll see in heaven, and wanting to see that vision of people from all nations coming before the throne of God and being a part of that, I think helps give me a perspective and encourages me to keep going. I think there's certainly hard moments on the field, moments where I'd wish to be back very quickly in Australia, but I think there's also times where you do just see God work in amazing ways in different people's lives, and a real sense that He's a living, loving God, and just wanting to be part of that mission and the work that He's doing.